The
You know you're the
billionaire's
only
pool party
person in this
secret
building who
minus
actually
she
knows
wore
what they're
green to
doing.
break his heart.
I thought I was just the coffee girl.
Not
They say
anymore.
minus a woman in love forgives everything until the day she decides she deserves better. And when that day came for Natalie, minus nobody saw it coming, not even him. A story of love, lies, and the life she deserved. The afternoon sun blazed over the marble-tiled courtyard of the Harrington estate in Miami, Florida. The swimming pool shimmered like liquid crystal, surrounded by white loungers, trimmed hedges, and the kind of silence that only obscene wealth could buy. Natalie Brooks stood at the edge of that world, minus literally. She wore a green dress, emerald, deep V-neck, fitted to every curve she had spent years being ashamed of. Today, she wore it like armor. Across from her stood Daniel Harrington, minus heir to the Harrington real estate empire. Blue shirt, sandy hair, jaw carved from marble. He looked exactly the same as he did 3 years ago when she had first walked into his life as his personal assistant. Back then, she had been invisible. Today, she was anything but 3 years earlier. Natalie had taken the job because she needed rent money. Simple as that. Fresh out of a state university in Ohio, with a communications degree and a bank account that had exactly $47 she had applied for the assistant position at Harrington Group on a whim. She didn't expect to get it. She definitely didn't expect him. Daniel Harrington was 29, brilliant, arrogant, in the way that only people who had never struggled could be, and completely indifferent to her existence. Minus except when he needed his schedule managed, his calls screened, or his coffee, ordered with oat milk and exactly 1 pump of vanilla, for 6 months. Natalie was a ghost in a designer office. She watched him charm investors, laugh with supermodels at charity galas, and date women who looked like they had been assembled in a factory, specifically designed to produce perfection. She told herself she felt nothing. She was lying. It started with a late night in October. A merger deal was falling apart. Daniel's senior team had gone home. His father was unreachable in Geneva, and Natalie Minus, who had stayed late to organize files. Minus found herself sitting across from him at a conference table at 11:47 p.m., helping him rebuild a 40-page acquisition proposal from scratch. "You know," he said, looking up from his laptop at some point past midnight, "you are the only person in this building who actually knows what they're doing." She had blinked. "I thought I was just the coffee girl." He laughed, a real laugh, not the polished boardroom version. A surprised, genuine sound that cracked something open in the room. After that night, things shifted. He started asking her opinion, inviting her into meetings, listening when she spoke. And somewhere in the space between professionalism and something else entirely, Natalie fell in love with a man she had absolutely no business loving. For 8 months they existed in a beautiful, dangerous in-between. Late dinners disguised as working sessions, texts that started as business and ended as conversation. A weekend trip to New York for a conference where they had walked through Central Park at night, and he had held her hand just once, and then pretended it hadn't happened. Natalie knew what she was. She wasn't naive. She was the small-town Ohio girl who answered his phones. He was the man on the cover of Forbes at 30. She had read enough stories to know how this ended, but then he kissed her. On a Tuesday in the elevator, for no reason at all, and she let herself believe. For 3 months, they were a secret. He said it was because of the company optics. She understood. He said his family needed time. She waited. He said he just needed to figure things out. She told herself that was fair. But secrets have a way of rotting from the inside. The morning she found out the truth, she had come to the office early to surprise him with breakfast something small, something hopeful. She heard voices in his office. She stopped at the door, his mother's voice sharp as cut glass. "The Whitfield girl is perfect for you, Daniel. Her family's portfolio alone." And his voice, low and steady. "I know, Mom. I'll end things with Natalie this week." It was never serious. It was never serious. Natalie stood in that hallway for exactly 4 seconds. Then she placed the breakfast bag on his assistant's desk, walked to the elevator, pressed the lobby button, and never came back. She didn't cry until she was 3 blocks away. Present day minus the pool. The job offer from Harrington Group's biggest competitor had come 6 months after she left. Natalie had spent those 6 months rebuilding minus therapy, late nights, a business development course she paid for herself, and a quiet, burning determination that felt cleaner than grief. She had tripled their client acquisition rate in her first quarter. Her name was starting to appear in trade publications. Last month, Business Insider had called her one of Miami's most promising young executives to watch. She had not thought about Daniel Harrington, except every single day. The invitation to the Harrington Estates annual summer charity gala had arrived in her professional inbox, minus formal, impersonal, addressed to her company. Her boss had asked her to represent them. She had almost said no. Then she thought about the green dress hanging in her closet. The one she'd bought 6 months ago and hadn't worn yet because she was waiting for a moment worthy of it. She said yes. She had arrived at the estate not looking for him. That was the truth. She was there to network, to represent her company, to smile at the right people and exchange the right business cards. She had a strategy and a timeline and absolutely no room in either for Daniel Harrington. He found her anyway. She was standing near the pool, speaking to a venture capitalist from Austin, when she felt his presence before she saw it. That specific stillness that fell around him in every room he entered. Natalie. She turned slowly, deliberately. Because she had rehearsed this minus not obsessively, just practically minus the way you rehearse a presentation. For a room full of people who once doubted you, he looked the same. And somehow, for the first time, that didn't hurt. Daniel, she said, the same tone she would use for any professional acquaintance. Warm, distant, perfectly calibrated. The confusion on his face was almost satisfying. You look, he started. Thank you, she said, before he could finish. I am actually in the middle of a conversation. She turned back to the venture capitalist, seamlessly resuming the discussion, as if Daniel were not standing 3 feet away, visibly recalibrating his entire understanding of the situation. He caught her alone near the garden 20 minutes later. Can we talk? He asked. We are talking. Natalie, his voice dropped. I owe you an explanation. What you must have heard that morning. I heard exactly what I needed to, she said simply. It gave me clarity. I am grateful for it, actually. He flinched. That is not fair. No, she agreed pleasantly. A lot of things weren't fair, but here we are. He stepped closer. I ended things with the Whitfield girl. 6 weeks after you left, I realized. Daniel. She looked at him really looked minus, and felt something settle in her chest, like a door closing gently. Not in anger, just in completion. It doesn't matter anymore. It matters to me, he said, and for once he sounded unpolished, unguarded. Like the man in the conference room at midnight, not the air on the Forbes cover. She took a breath. I spent a long time waiting for you to choose me, she said quietly, and you didn't. And I had to learn how to be enough for myself first. I am not interested in going back to before that. The silence between them was full and still, like the pool at the edge of the courtyard. I am not asking to go back, he said finally. I am asking if there is a forward. She thought about it on the drive home. She thought about the girl in Ohio with $47 her bank account. The ghost in the designer office. The woman who had stood in a hallway and heard herself reduced to a casual aside in someone else's family planning conversation. She thought about therapy and late nights and the business course, and her name in Business Insider. She thought about the green dress. She pulled out her phone at a red light. His number was still there. She hadn't deleted it, minus not because she was waiting, but because deleting it had felt like a performance of healing she wasn't interested in putting on. She typed, there might be a forward, But it would be different this time. She hit send, then she put the phone in her bag, turned the music up, and drove home to the life she had built entirely for herself. His reply could wait. She had learned how to do that, minus how to want something, and not let the wanting swallow her whole. The green dress had been right about one thing. She was finally completely, unapologetically worthy of the best version of everything, including, maybe, him. But only if he was willing to earn it.